Okay, I'll call the special common council meeting to order. November 13th, 2017. Notice has been duly posted. Roll call.
Mayor Joe Chilson,
Present.
Jim Benash,
Here.
Jerry Every. Here. Ron Jertson,
Here.
Jim Olson. Here. Harvey Bertrand,
Here.
Bob Muth.
Here. Approval of the minutes of the previous meeting.
So move.
Second. Motion made by Jim Benash, seconded by Bob Muth to approve the minutes. Question.
What minutes are we approving?
To the last council meeting.
Last council meeting?
The last council meeting.
It's not the meeting that we talked about the budget.
No, it is the last council meeting.
Same. So we'll do the same.
Correct. Well,
We'll probably skip those because we won't have the minutes back from this one yet. If we would have the minutes back from this meeting, we could approve those tomorrow night, but that's probably not going to.
not going to happen, so. So we'll just put it off, approval of those minutes next time.
This is called a special common council. and
Right.
First time we get to talk about the budget was the finance and personnel last week.
Correct. All in favor of the approval of the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So moved. Jared, would you turn me down a little bit? Thank you. Okay, consideration and possible action on the following items. Finance, public hearing approximately 6 p.m. Public input limited to 3 minutes per individual on the proposed 2018 executive budget, including the budgets for general fund, special revenue funds, debt service funds, enterprise funds, capital project funds, and community development authority funds. Anyone wishing to speak on the budget? Second call, anyone wishing to speak on the budget? Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak on the budget? That portion is now closed. Recommendations and possible actions in regard to 2018 budget changes. I direct your attention to the finance and personnel item. It's a white sheet, looks like this. And those are the changes that we have so far. Is there a motion to approve? Pardon me? Yeah, would you say it in the mic just so?
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion made by Jerry. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jim Benash to approve the items stated in the agenda, labeled motions made at F&P 11-117. Discussion. Jim?
Just like to make mention that this, the reason for the budget changes has to do with health insurance savings, just so those who may be watching at home can understand what this was about.
Okay. City Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Exhibit 1 is indeed the health insurance. On the flip side of that, there are 6 more exhibits, Exhibit 2 through 7, which other reasons that the F&P moved and approved. One is a COLA, the fire contract, which was indeed approved by the union Friday, I believe. Oh, thank you. There's additional software in the joint municipal courts, and then some changes made earlier for the utility assistant billing position. Exhibit 6 is affecting the sewer transmission rate, and Exhibit 7 is the That's right, sorry. There we go. So there were a total of 7 items in one motion.
Okay, any other questions? Comments? Okay. All in favor of the motion? This has to be a roll call, correct?
You don't need a roll call on it, do you? No, it needs to be voice.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion carries. Any changes, other changes from council members that you would like to make at this time? Jerry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have some questions that I have received phone calls on that public apparently are listening or watching, wanted answered. And if that's okay, I'll ask those now. One was on the room tax revenue. They're saying that in 2017 it was 722,000, 2018 is 732,000. That's an increase of $10,000. First, they're wondering why projecting an increase, and secondly, they were saying that the room tax we used to collect was $950,000 a year when it was in Alaska. So perhaps Fred or Eric can answer those questions. I don't know the answer.
Would like to take a stab at that. Fred?
Okay, I missed part of it, so because it kind of muffled in and out. There is no changes. The room tax, this time last year, we used room tax sales of $10,550,000. The room tax anticipated sales for 2018 is $10,550,000. I sat down this morning with Jim Benash, who is the chairman of the tourism board, showing him where we are through 3 quarters of the 2017 budget, and we're right on target of exactly what we anticipated and what's going to should turn into reality, not knowing the last quarter, but on the graphs that we went through this morning, clearly shows that we will be taking in the dollars that we anticipated in the budget under revenues of a total of $844,000. That's 8% of $10,550,000. Keep in mind, under state statute of the, as well as city ordinance, I believe, Sean, is the city, when those dollars come in, the city's portion that we're allowed hits the special projects fund and the general fund. I didn't bring those figures in here for the first 3 quarters, but again, it's right on target based on the revenue that we anticipated. The dollars that is transferred from the tourism board to the Omni Center is done through a transfer, which is the requirement based on the new changes in the law. So in other words, which is 1% of, in other words, 1% of the $10,550,000 is $105,000 that is in this year's budget, and it was in last year's budget of anticipated dollars going to the Omni Center. Also, the tourism board last year, I should say 2017 and in 2018, are also paying an additional dollars that was indicated and discussed at the tourism board of an additional, and it's under the transfer of $14,500. So the $120,000 is the exact same figure in 17 as is in 18.
Yeah, what he's asking though is in prior years, we collected more room tax. Is that correct?
Well, you got to keep in mind that if you, on the graphs that we handed out when we discussed first and second quarter, the sales for the last couple of years, especially not so much in 16, but in 15, there was a lot more sales. You had no motels you had additional motels being built in the city of La Crosse that are now here, and whether that between that and on the tourism minutes, I think Jim Benash, we talked about the fact that there is There was the additional tracks going through the city of La Crosse, which allowed the additional people to stay in at motels, and so the sales were up 2 years ago considerably than they were are today, because we have additional motels, and so
The short answer to that is La Crosse built more hotels, so it was spread out over more hotels. Jim?
Well, at some of our meetings in the Room Tax Commission, it was well known that both La Crosse and Onalaska were down in patronage. And you should also be aware, too, that the amount of money that we are now giving to the La Crosse County Convention and Visitors Bureau, the percentage has changed. We all agreed to that when the La Crosse County Convention and Visitors Bureau was established, that after a couple of years, the percentages would change, so actually more money would be coming back to the city of Onalaska. And that may account for some of the change, but there was a downturn in the amount of patronage to the local hotels, but that has picked up again in the third quarter or fourth quarter as anticipated.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. I have another question.
go ahead.
The other person wanted to know apparently there was a summary out somewhere that somebody got a hold of under personnel management. They were questioning what that was because it was an increase of 39% from 69,245 to 93,586. I couldn't find it anywhere in my budget, so I don't know.
I think I will pass that one to the city administrator. Feel free to pass that to the finance director if you wish.
So the first tab I went to was the personnel. I don't see anything that's personnel management there to kind of compare to. What was the number you said it was?
I don't know. They just said they were looking at a summary, and it was under personnel management. I have no idea. I couldn't find it anywhere in here.
I have a personnel, I don't know if we're referring to the detail in the back or we're referring to the cherry sheets up front. See, the detail is called HR personnel, and each department has what they call a personnel justification. The front part, which is the cherry section, which are totals of what's in the back, just a second. There's personnel management, went from 69,245 in 2017 to 93,586 in 2018.
That's the one they're talking about.
Page are you on?
That's, it's a cherry sheets that are in front of your book.
Probably the second one in.
Second one?
Well, yep, the second one in, on the chair. And it's in the bottom section.
It's under the general fund breakdown of the different categories, and it's classified under the general government expenditures of $1,539,093.
Okay, so the explanation was what?
Okay, and then the
That's a
explanation.
bat.
So if you go to the detail under tab, under HR, Human Resources, there's additional health insurance costs. There's the additional personnel was added, a full-time employee, and 45% is in HR, and I think a portion of it is in IT, which is both general fund, and then there's also a distribution put into enterprise funds as well. The health insurance, because now you have two people in there, that's a proration of the health insurance. I'm not exactly sure, I may want to talk to HR of exactly what other items, but that's the vast majority of the increase.
So this was two people we added in 17?
Two people are, no, there was a part-time person in 17. If you look at the detail there, the part-time person is drawn a line through in the HR department sheet. $5,137 disappeared in the 2018 budget, but it was in 17, and now in the 2018 budget, it's been replaced by a $17,493.
And keeping in mind that that position is not a new position necessarily. When we did personnel changes, we were shifting between finance, the court, and HR, creating new positions. So what we may be seeing in the personnel management is an increase, but that's not a net increase in positions. That'd be a decrease in the finance and a decrease in the court.
Was this because of the municipal court
No.
shakeup that we'd made? No. And this is not new employees in the 2018 budget, because the director was no new employees.
This was, if you look at under the finance department, when the payroll finance assistant resigned, that position was not filled. That was a full-time position, and the responsibilities were, when we went through the reorg, it was kind of tied in with the things going on at there, some at the same time, so that the payroll that was under finance, because we took a decrease in 2018's budget by 16%, got shifted over to HR. So the shifting took place there.
So somewhere else there should be deficit.
Just a minute, Hope, why don't you explain this?
So Jerry, what happened is we had a payroll finance assistant that resigned in July or August. And that individual was doing payroll and then finance duties. So when we looked at replacing that position, we looked at some options to, does finance continue to do payroll or not? The decision was made to move payroll to human resources. At that point in time, I had a part-time position that we decided to combine those duties and fill the position internally. So that position then became full-time, adding those payroll responsibilities onto it. The position then that was in full-time in the finance department then became a part-time position. So that 1560 position that is in the finance department is the 1,200-hour position that was in my department initially for this year, and then also the additional duties, the hours that were removed from the part-time person to reduce from 1,560 to 1,200 in municipal court to move over to the finance department to replace that person that left. So really, we moved the hours around, but essentially the net change was basically no increase to the budget. The only difference, yeah, we just moved it in different departments. The only difference in the budget is that the person that we had previously had basically single insurance. The person that we have now will be taking family insurance next year.
That's a difference.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Fred?
Just for a point of information, is in your packet, page 3 may have somehow got out of order, but page 3 was a memo from myself relating to the fact that we need to discuss and take action tonight on is an adjustment needed to be made on the joint municipal court retirement percentage, of which was not looked at the time the budget was looked at the finance personnel level nor the executive level. So it's an additional $1,070 that would need to be added to the 2018 budget to make the Wisconsin retirement be intact.
Fred, just for clarification, it's the last page of their packet, in case you're still looking for it. That's the cream on the last.
Somehow that page got put back, instead of being next to page 2, it got put way in the back.
This relates to the packet we have for tonight's meeting, the agenda. We go to that page, page 3. I think they're looking, if they're looking in the budget book, it's not in the budget book, it's the, yeah, yeah.
Mr. Administrator?
Thank you. And just to clarify on that, this did not go to F&P. It was not discovered until after that fact, as Fred had mentioned. So this is not part of the omnibus motion made earlier today, but this is a change that does need to be made for retirement purposes for a particular employee. Those are real costs that we'll have to bear. So we ask for a motion and an acceptance of this, much as we've done on the earlier motions today.
Motion to approve. Go ahead. approve the change.
So we can make an amendment, a motion for an amendment to include, or we gotta do that separate?
No,
Separate.
just a separate motion is acceptable. You've already accepted the omnibus one, this is another motion. We can go back to, Sean, as you believe, we're explaining, we can go back to the public hearing if need be after all the motions are made and do it one time.
Right, we'll just do all our motions and then go back to. Okay, so we are, anybody else have any changes they wish?
There was the motion, we should take
Oh,
it.
I'm sorry,
I'll make a motion to approve.
there is one here.
Because Jerry made
Your
the-
second, you will second
Second,
it then.
okay.
Okay, motion made and seconded. What's the motion? Would you read back the motion?
The motion is to approve the change on Exhibit A to the joint municipal court.
Okay. Exhibit A in your packet, joint municipal court. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion carries. Any other changes?
Make them,
Sure. Yeah, I'm asking for changes now.
What do you mean, are you going to do a run-through of the budget, each category, like we did a week ago?
No, we'll just, we'll ask for, I'm asking for your changes now that you have.
Well, I do have more questions. So this is another public question, and it concerns the mayor. Let's see, what did they want to know here? Your salary was 14,262 last year, went to 16,153 this year, 13.26%. Figured out percentages. And that was the question, why?
I'd like to know why too, Fred. I thought I was making $18,000.
As we discussed at the finance personnel level, one of the first things we talked about was, there was a sheet that's in, it was, we handed out where there's probably about 15 to 16 people within the city of Onalaska are split into many different funds, special revenue funds, enterprise funds, and a general fund. And for example, your wages as, just a second here, is split is if you were to look on the sheet, it says 59% on the mayor's sheet. That means 59% of the $18,000 is applied to the general fund. And this is on, if you look at the tab under mayor, which is 10,620. The other percentages are outlined. If you give me a second, I'll tell you what they are.
On the wage info tab in the front,
Yeah, I think we've got that.
what's the employee
Just
splits?
pertaining to the mayor, is all
Oh,
the
Right.
okay.
question was
But-
about.
Okay.
I think what he's saying is that the salary, the 100% of the salary is divided, and what you're seeing in the personal information here is just the general fund portion of the mayor's salary,
Okay, so where does the other portion show up?
to 59%.
We have seven, and by the way, these percentages are the same as they were the year before. So there wasn't any change. The water department is 7%, sewer 7%, stormwater 7%, 20% tourism, which totals, and 59% general fund, which totals 100%.
Let me explain how. What they do is my pay comes from several different departments. They write off some of my pay in different departments, and that's what that is. It's just in that one piece that went up that amount. It went down, correspondingly, it went down in other areas. It still was $18,000.
But we're having an increase in the stormwater, right, this year?
Yes.
That won't impact it at all.
Thank you.
Jerry, I would ask, I'm in the same district as you, your constituent that calls you, they didn't call me. Would you have them call me next year, and I'll have them come to the Finance and Personnel meeting where we would have had all that cleared up and answered all their questions?
I asked her if she wanted to come tonight.
Okay? Give her my phone number too, please.
But maybe she was, she wanted to be sure it got asked.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, we have an increase in the stormwater utility. And I'm thinking it's unnecessary. Let me find mine. We got a 5% increase there. And yet in the refuse and recyclable, we're over budget currently. It looks like we're going to end up over budget next year, and we've added $10,000 besides. So I'm wondering if we could take money from the refuse and recycling and apply it to the stormwater utility rather than have an increase. And I know that's an enterprise fund.
Go ahead, Fred.
I can start it as, first of all, the stormwater utility is an enterprise fund. An enterprise fund is required to have sufficient revenues to offset its expenditures. I can also tell you that through the budget process that was presented through committee level, the stormwater utility, as well as the Board of Public Works, we're talking about doing a mortgage revenue bond issue in 2018. There has to be sufficient revenues coming in through the stormwater utility to cover any and all costs anticipated as we are preparing ourselves for the 2018 budget. The refuse and recycling is a special revenue fund. I would not be comfortable having a tax levy of a special revenue fund being transferred to an enterprise fund. And enterprise funds need to stand on their own merit. The increase on the refuse and recycling, the dollar differential is strictly based on what we anticipate for what I call consumer price index increase on the rates for 2018. That is the only increase that took place is when you take a look at all the different rates that the refuse and recycling charges. In your packet, you'll see there's yard waste, leaf collection. Leaf collection is probably the highest one, the rates, and then you got the garbage pickup and all those different layers, raising the rates based on the number of containers that they have out there in refuse and recycling.
I guess that was the reason I was asking the question, guys, is because we do also do leaf pickup in the refuse and recycle.
Yeah, now, the reason the refuse and recycling is in the stormwater utility, I guess I'm gonna turn that over to Jared as to the
Yes,
why the
please.
bunch.
The leaf pickup is within the refuse and recycling budget because that's where it's bid out, that's where it's budgeted. But it's paid for by the stormwater utility because there's a direct correlation between pollutants from the leaves going in the waterways. So that is a direct cost that's borne by the stormwater utility. We actually get credit on our DNR items for picking up leaves. So that's the reason that it's paid for out of the stormwater utility budget. Included within the proposed 2018 budget, I include a memo from July 14th of 2017 in the budget that outlines 4 items that basically consume the whole reason that the stormwater budget went up. And Part of that, the largest item was 16,500 was for debt service or capital projects from the previous year that came on board. Part of that was also equalizing in the city administrator benefits that weren't in the year before, some employee wage COLA increases, and then increased public education efforts with the county. So those all totaled together came to $26,000, and that's pretty close to what the stormwater budget went up from 2017 to the proposed 2018. The stormwater utility, as Fred stated, also is one of the budget items is a $25,000 item to build the reserve. So each year, we are building a reserve in that account. That utility has been in existence for approximately 6 years now, so we are trying to build a reserve. So when we go out and do the mortgage revenue bond, as Fred stated, we will have a reserve to show Moody's that we should get a good rating. But
The other thing I wanted to say was, thank you for being patient with me, but this is actually the first time we've got to ask questions about the budget. And I remember when there was no stormwater utility, and we would have had to pick those up under refuse. And so, you know, we ding these people to death with fees and permits and things like that, and to me, the stormwater utility was just another one of those. So I think that leaf collection should also be under refuse, but I'll go along with you. Thank you.
Okay, any changes that anyone would like to make to the budget?
I have another one I want to make, but I don't know if you're just proposing changes. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is your time to change the budget.
Okay. I wanted to talk about some other things, too. Utility. Police department, I know we discussed that some, or we didn't, you did at Finance and Personnel last week. But I still need to get straight in my head about this overtime that we're paying. I haven't asked the question yet, Chief, but I will. We have overtime that's regular overtime, that's $81,442. Then we have overtime special projects, that's $13,781. The way I understood the explanation was that we had, apparently you had budgeted for 3 new positions. When you budget for new positions, I assume you budget the salary for those along with that. If they're not filled, that just accumulates and creates an excess. So I'm wondering, why wasn't that used to pay the overtime? Or am I mistaken in how that occurred? Go ahead.
I can start. First of all, in the page that John is on is in the front where it says expense summary. The page is, we have what they call overtime for the police department. We budgeted $70,120. Year-to-date expenditure, no budget, but expenditure of $13,781. The chief, there's many assignments that are done, which he can get into, where overtime must be classified as overtime in the overtime column. Is the city does receive funds from the reimbursement of some of those special projects, i.e. the seatbelt grant, I think the speed grant, all that money must, under GASB and GAAP, must be classified, because the state, when you receive money from the state, they want to see it on the City of Onalaska's general financial statement as state revenue. You cannot net or apply the revenue that we receive into an expenditure. And so when so the revenue is if you're in the general fund operating budget, under the revenue, there's an account called state aid, reference to that program of policing. And so the revenue gets classified in there, so that way the state can see all the dollars that they're giving each town, city, and village, and recognized through the services they're preventing through grants.
I don't see the state aid. Where did that show up?
That'd be under the revenues.
Okay, I'm looking at revenues now.
Second.
On your green sheet.
It'll be account number 100 dash.
Revenues are up in the front. This is page right here. Here it is, right here. It's 100. It's
Okay.
a 100 account.
Under the state aid, if it was to be, it would have been under the,
State aid for connecting is here, it's 43,541.
just thinking here, see that it is, it's under 436.90. State aid other payments.
Payment for municipal
Under state aid other payments,
lieu of taxes.
under, on 100-436.90, state aid other payments. The reason the city does not budget for these special projects, because we really, I mean, we don't know from year to, the reason there is no budget for 2018 is because we don't really know when and if any grants that he may or may run.
The grants oftentimes come in during mid-year. So like the grants for like the seatbelt grants, the speed grants, the state actually will release the money at some point during, like the money that's being spent now. If there was any anticipated revenue, it would have had to been done for the 2017 budget, would have been done in 2016 going into 2017. But that's not possible because we don't know if the state's going to be giving out money or not for these grants. So when they do give the money out, the money is exhausted out of the overtime, but then there's a incoming revenue for that money spent for the grant. So it should be dollar for dollar, if that makes sense. So if we spend $100 on overtime, we should be getting $100 back
Yep.
on that part.
I guess
Joe?
I'll come in
Joe?
and have you go through that with me.
Joe?
I'll come in and have you go through that with me
Okay.
rather than
Mr. Mayor?
take up your time here. But
Mr. Mayor?
because what I'm looking at is the regular budget book,
Oh,
and it shows
Mr. City Administrator,
$11,000 over.
Mr. City Administrator,
I think to offer some clarification, and Fred, just verify this with me, it's an unbudgeted item because it's an end-of-the-year exchange. So we'll have expenses that we're going to get reimbursed by the state. So right now, we're overexpending, but we're going to get that revenue back from the state as the grant. So that's why we don't budget for it. That's why it's over and overtime right now, but we'll get paid by the state. We'll take care of that wash, if you will, at the end of the year.
Don't you pass a carryover correction in December or sometime, what you're going to carry over to?
In February of next year, we make sure all the GASB and GAP compliance of any transfers that need to take place, we either do, if each department can handle within themselves, a motion is to make them what I call budget neutral, to make sure there's sufficient dollars, and that is all done in February, after all the
That would show up
bills
there.
have been run through.
And not to complicate it any, I think that's what we were talking about at the last meeting was, when you talk about the 3 new positions, I just want to make sure we understand it's not 3 new added positions to the 2018 budget. It was from either the one that was new for 2018, but dealing a lot with the vacated positions based off of whatever the reason that the position is vacated. So in my opinion, and this is a finance thing, there should be vacated salary to offset the losses in overtime. I think that's where the confusion was with 3 people.
That's the way you explained it, finance and personnel, but I wasn't sure. Is that right, Fred?
Right, is to see that the thing is you have to recognize the expenditures. There is revenue coming in through these projects, but like I say, and the net effect is gonna be 0% change.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay, Bob,
I'll make a motion to approve the 2018 city budget.
I'll second that.
We need to go to public hearing first, back to public hearing on these changes first.
we haven't changed anything, have we?
There were a number of changes. All the FMP changes were
Those.
were adopted,
okay.
and then that one other change.
Okay, so I have to
was
go back,
adopted.
we
I'm
have to
sorry
go
step
back to
on your toes,
public
Bob,
hearing.
but-
Oh, yeah, okay.
Well, we do have to go back to public hearing on the changes that were made.
So do we need a motion to go back to public hearing?
Yes.
I'll make a motion, we go back to public hearing.
I'll second that.
A motion made and seconded to go back into public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay?
Nay?
Got Jim Olson?
Got 4 to 2.
Jim?
Jim, did you vote A or nay for that? To go back into public hearing? Okay, that's what I had was 4-2. Thank you.
Okay, so we're back in a public hearing. Now, is there any, there's no public here to,
But you still need to call the public hearing.
okay. I will, anyone wishing to speak on those changes? Second call, anyone wishing to speak on those changes? Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak on those 7 changes? Hearing none. We will move back, now we can move back to
So you would close the public hearing.
close the public hearing. We don't need a motion to close the public hearing, do we? No. Okay, Bob?
Now I'll make a motion to approve the 2018 city budget.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Bob, seconded by Jim to approve the 2018 Onalaska City budget. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
We do not have a city budget then.
No, it passed. It's a simple majority.
It's a simple majority, okay.
The ordinance requires a 3/4 majority.
3/4, okay. Okay, so, changes by the council members.
Okay. I do have a change.
I'm sorry, but it was my fault in procedure. I should have stopped you before and I didn't, so it was a procedural thing on my part.
It's okay.
Yes. Nope, right now, the motion was for the 2018 budget, and that carried 4-2.
Okay, Jerry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that. I did want to talk about one more thing, guys, and that was municipal court.
Okay,
I don't know where to begin. You're all aware of everything that went on there.
We need a motion on the floor.
yeah, so
We need
you
a
would have to
motion
make a
to
motion
begin
to
discussion.
change something. Correct? We need a motion to change something.
Right.
I don't know what it is we want to change.
The,
I want to see the audit proceed, or I will sit here all night and vote no on this budget. And I want to know why it was put off.
Go ahead, Fred.
Discussion in reference to your issue, John, will be tomorrow night.
We've already approved a budget. I don't want to approve a budget till I get that settled. I know that. I saw it on the agenda.
Okay, but any dollars that may or may not have been expended is in the 2017's budget and not in the 2018 budget tonight.
What is that?
So the money you want expended for the, for this audit is in the 2017 budget, not in the 2018 budget.
Okay, so we can go ahead and approve this budget and then talk about that on Tuesday, tomorrow night, is that
And
right?
we can approve it tomorrow night out of the 2017 budget, yes.
Is that the way it,
Which is, the original conversation regarding that audit was using 2017 funds, both joint municipal
Correct.
court and then the council took action to approve that using 2017 funds.
for 2017?
2017
Yes,
funds.
using
Thank you.
2017
Add that back in would be, again, using 2017 funds.
Thank
Okay.
you for that clarification, but we're not doing it in 2017. The committee decided not to go ahead with the audit at the behest of you and Sean, that you could use that money for training. We didn't provide it for training. So that's what I want to talk about.
Right. If,
So that'll be a carryover to the 2018 budget. We authorized it.
we'll get into the process and procedures, authorized, but it's a joint municipal court expense, which is a semi-autonomous committee and oversight, of which we pay 50-some% of those costs. If the court and the council wish to approve that expenditures, it's still a 2017 expense.
Yep, so it
We'd
would
be
be,
approving it now, we would start the process now if that's the direction given. Or, you do have an option, you can add it as a new line item for 2018, but we would need to find the offset for that, since we're looking for the balances. Or we can use 2017 funds, and that can be something that the council can approve or deny tomorrow.
The council denied it. The Finance and Personnel Commission denied it. They approved, they said to terminate the contract. At your behest and yours. Why? We authorized that audit. I would like to hear from the other council members that voted yes, why they voted yes. That was a council direction, wasn't followed. It was money we authorized that wasn't spent. It was spent on something else or intended to be spent on something else. I guess I'll be glad to vote for your budget. I think you did a good job on it. If you want to give me a decent answer to that question. I want to know what you're hiding. I want to know what's going on. And I don't think you want to have another one of these things on your hands. You folks went through one before.
Absolutely.
I would think you would want to have the satisfaction in knowing that everything was perfect.
I would need a point of order from somebody on the council to seek assistance from our city attorney. The item is not a budget 2018 item under discussion. I guess there's a motion to add it to 2018, I think I can discuss, but it's not really something 2017. There's nothing hidden. Been happy to explain what was done,
Yeah.
but there's procedural because there's the funds going to the committee to expend, which they've done so under their decision-making process, which is semi-autonomous from here. But again, Sean, I'm not sure if I'm off of what the public announcement should be for the budget hearing.
Right, what is noticed to discuss tonight is the 2018 budget. Well, I'm happy to discuss that either with you privately or at tomorrow night's meeting when it's noticed about the 2017 budget and what happened at the municipal court meeting. I'm happy to discuss that tonight. There needs to be, all the motions have to relate to the 2018 budget.
I don't want to discuss it tonight. And I don't want to discuss it privately. I don't do things that way. I want it discussed in public. And I want this discussion in public. If we can have that tomorrow night, that's just fine with me.
okay. Then that's what we'll do. We'll discuss it in open session.
I'll take my blanket, vote yes on your budget, go home.
Okay,
You're
so,
forewarned.
okay, so. Are there any other changes first?
No, I don't have any.
Ron, you're okay? Everybody here's okay?
It got covered.
Okay,
You could entertain a motion with respect to the ordinance, the budget ordinance.
We're on item 5 now. I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 1600-2017 to adopt the appropriate budget for.
Motion made by Bob, seconded by Harvey, to adopt the city budget. We need to suspend the rules.
Yes, I'll make a amendment to, a motion to suspend the rules to give the ordinance first, second, third, and final readings.
Second.
Motion made by Bob, seconded by Harvey to suspend the rules. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Motion carries. Jim, did you vote?
Yes.
Oh, he did, okay, I didn't hear it. Okay, I was waiting for him to vote. Okay, so the rules are suspended. Now, Bob, you can.
Yep.
We can go to Bob's initial motion, and that is to approve the ordinance 1600-2017. And that takes a roll call, correct? Yep.
Jim, the
Just,
motion is
hold
to
it, there's a discussion here. Yep, discussion, go ahead.
First, second, and third is fine. I will vote for your motion, but I really don't see any need for first, second, and third either. I would like to have had at least some more input on this budget. Hopefully, next year, we can arrange that that takes place. I don't think there's any hurry. We could have done a third reading Thursday night or some other night next week, but I will vote for it reluctantly. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Roll call.
I'm just going to repeat the motion for Jim.
Okay, go ahead. Yep.
Jim, we're taking a roll call vote at the present time for approval of ordinance number 1600-2017 for first, second, third, and final reading. So you're first on my list, Jim Olson. Aye. Jim Benash.
Aye.
Harvey Bertrand.
Aye.
Bob Muth.
Aye.
Jerry Every.
Aye.
Ron Jertson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Jim Benash, seconded by Ron Jertson to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions. We stand adjourned at 6:51? 6:52,